inspire, empower, grab your girls and soar a little higher, unlock the fire in you, cause real women don't bitch, no, real women don't, 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 real women don't bitch.
Hey, thank you for joining me on the Real Women Don't Bitch podcast. This is your proud host, August Crenshaw, aka Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless. I am the #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs because building mental muscle is necessary in order to implement successful business strategies. This show has been created for the woman who is not excuse-driven and needs help building a profitable business. I will be interviewing women from various fields who are willing to break the silence on struggles that specifically affect female entrepreneurs. Welcome to a show where I and guest speakers from time to time share our methods that help us beast our business no matter what is going on in our lives. Whether you are an online or brick and mortar business owner, this show is for you. We will hit every angle, personal, professional, and spiritual. Why? Because on any given day, you get hit with shit from a scenario involving one, more, or perhaps all of the above. It all impacts you and your mindset towards your business. I have made it my personal mission to provide a space where we dive deep into the BS we face on a day-to-day basis. Woo! Y'all know how I am. Welcome back. Hey, ladies. When I have people that are doing quirky faces or putting their hands up or we're laughing really giggly before the podcast episode even starts, you guys know that it's going to be juicy, right? And so this is really going to be juicy. I'm excited because I'm in the studio. I have a guest with me, totally off the cuff, impromptu, and we literally don't know what the hell we're going to be talking about. We just had like about a 40-minute conversation about life and friendship and a bunch of other things. And we never did say, well, at least let's narrow down a topic. So this is going to be amazing. But let me just give you all a bit of background on who my guest is. So you guys know who Pika is. You know I love her to pieces. She's been on here a couple times. And you all know I'm hosting the Business Mastery Summit. Shame on you if you haven't registered yet. But I'm not about to, I'm not about to pitch you just yet. But anywho, so Pika is telling all these badass women, you should be a part of this summit. And this woman signs up and I get on a chat with her on Zoom and she starts drilling the shit out of me. And I'm like, I love her already. What are you doing? Why are you doing? What are you listening? And it's asking all of these questions. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, oh, I hope she says yes. I want her to be part of my summit because she obviously doesn't jump into bed with just anybody. And so this is hot shit. But then even talking to her even more, just really understanding how much women, people, God, all these things matter to her. I was like, from a moral perspective, as you can see, Kristen, I really wanted you so bad to be a part of it because your vibe, your energy, and then we just kept talking about shit. And I'm like, I say that, I think that, I love that, I feel that. And bam, so here we are. This is a newer relationship, you guys. But you know me, I will not put my mouth on anybody if I just don't absolutely trust, know, and believe. But even in the newness of our relationship, I'm telling you right now, I'm like, if you need Kristen, you call this woman, you talk to her, you work with her because she is a force to be reckoned with. She's a force of freaking nature. She's totally awesome, amazing, all that good shit. And she's here on the podcast. So Kristen Benton, after that Grammy announcement, say hi to the people.
Oh my gosh, that's so much.
I know.
I better bring it now. Now I'm kind of like, maybe we should pause and get a topic because I got big shoes to fill. Now I'll be good. Oh, you're so sweet. I feel exactly the same about you. And I love every chance we get to talk. And I love that people get to kind of like
It's
listen
gonna
in
be
on.
so cool. It's gonna be so cool. So this is everybody's first time getting to know you. So let's go ahead and get the formalities out of the way. I love for my speakers to connect with the audience. No business. Just tell them who is Kristen.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
She's an enigma wrapped in, no, just kidding.
She ain't got no sense.
I have no sense. No, so I'm a mom of two amazing daughters who are changing the world already. And so be on the lookout for them because they're about to take this world over, yo. But I grew up in Northwest Iowa. Fun fact, it is where I grew up is the ice cream capital of the world.
Ooh.
More ice cream made there than anywhere else in the world. If you look at my Facebook feed, you would die with how much people talk about ice cream. It's in our blood. So that's where I grew up. Little town in Iowa. Moved to Chicago for high school, came to Nashville for college, and that was 22 years ago. I've been here ever since.
All right.
Yeah, I love it. But I'm super nomadic. I'm always on the go, always traveling. I'm really interested in other cultures. I always say that I'm a collector of hobbies.
Ooh.
So, yes, I pick up a hobby, master it, and then throw it aside and go for the next thing. So any of you Enneagram lovers out there, that's a very typical Enneagram 7 kind of jam. And that's pretty much everything about me. Is anything you know about an Enneagram 7, that's me. I have high energy, love to try new things, master new things quickly, and then go do something else. So my life often feels very disconnected, like I jump from one thing to another. But it's interesting how God puts those things together then, and then they all make sense. Like, oh, that's why I was interested in this at that time. Oh, well, now I can use that for this. And so it all works out.
Oh, no, I absolutely love that. And not exactly the same thing, because I'm one of those people that I'm more routine. I'm like, I'm a habitual, whatever it is. I'm one of those people, if I go to a restaurant, I eat something, it tastes good. Then every time I go back, that's the only thing that I order. The only, everything is still the same with me. But I do still think about how there was a season in my life, and this was like back in 2010. My husband and I had bought the first home that we got together. And all of these skills started coming out of me. Like my grandmother used to reupholster furniture. Somebody gave me, they wanted to give me this reclining set. And my grandmother used to always tell me, never say no to a gift. Like say yes. And even if you don't need it, give it to somebody else. And we had this massively huge basement and it fit perfectly in there. But it was this kind of like crazy, funky, like mauve color. And it was like, it was old. But when I looked at it, all of the framework, this was like made back in the day when they like used real steel and iron and shit to make furniture, and the wood was thick. It wasn't plywood. I was like, this is a really sturdy thing. I just, the colors country. And for whatever reason, my brain, a switch clicked on. It was like, reupholster it. And I measured it, went and bought some furniture. She came over to get her hair done, and she was like, "Can I have my sofa back?" And I was like, "Hell no, it's mine now, sweetie." And then I started like getting into designing jewelry and these different things, and so my life started going through these transitions, and I started finding out these gifts that I had inside of me that I didn't know were there. But like you said, it just seemed like these things were coming and they were passing. But I was in this moment of exploration. Where God was like, look at you. There's so much inside of you that you don't know exists. There's so much that you can do that you don't know that you're capable of. And that caused something to rise up in me to say, oh, you're not living life to the fullest. You need to do something different. So I love that. The exploration, the journey, you're knitting and crocheting today and, you horseback riding tomorrow, but it's
exactly.
So that's a beautiful thing. I love that. Now, like I said, not exactly the same thing, but I love it when I find parallels with people. So here you are, you're this person, you do all of these different things, but you have consistently stuck with what you do for business. Mm-hmm. What is that?
Yeah, I have consistently stuck with mentoring, guiding, nurturing, and leading women through their careers and their lives. That's been really a consistent ribbon. No matter when I was in corporate and insurance, when I ran a national, very successful startup company, no matter what I've been doing, the common thread has always been whether I at the time realized it or not, now I am very aware of it and it's very intentional, has really been just like a love for developing women to be what they don't even see they have, like seeing in them their gifts and saying, you are so talented at this. How are you not pursuing this, or how do you not see this, and guiding them through that, whether it's, like I said, whether it's in their work or in their life, but just working with women from high school to 60, 70 years old.
You know, and we both have that in common, to kind of do it slightly different, but there's a lot of parallels and commonalities between what we do. And I have my opinions. I do have a lot of opinions about why. You know, I'm a highly opinionated person, if you guys didn't know that.
I don't know anything about opinions.
No, you know, they're like assholes. Everybody's got one. But anywho. Yeah, I know I'm silly.
No, it's true.
But I do have a lot of thoughts about why women, you know, don't come out and shine. And I was actually listening to a gentleman this morning at like 4 something in the morning who was talking about women and why he believes that they need a special amount of love and encouragement in entrepreneurship. And so before I say what his opinions were, I'm interested to know, why do you think that is? Why do women have to be basically given permission or awakened to their greatness?
Yeah. So this is really funny because, again, like all times that we talk, I was just talking about this yesterday about my youngest daughter, who is 9 now. And last year, so she's super into engineering and robotics and like how things work. She takes stuff apart, you know, and she last year got really excited about creating her own circuit. It was a simple circuit that ran a little motor, and she was really excited about it, did this thing at home, and then she wanted to take it to school to show her teacher and her classmates. And we were like, yes, take it to school.
Okay.
We're amazing at this, like show this off. She took it to school, and she came home, and I asked her, I was like, so what did they think? Did they love it? Was it so cool? Like, was your teacher super impressed? Like, did you get to show your class? And she goes, no, she says, my teacher said I had to put it away and to take it home and not bring it out.
Damn.
And I was like, so I was talking about this yet, and I don't know why it had just come up, but recently it started like gnawing at me. And this has been about a year. And I was like, you know, I'm like, oh, I know, because she brought something else to school yesterday. And I said to my husband, I was like, well, just be prepared for another, it's a different teacher, different year. So, and I need to find out how it went because I was out of town. But I thought about it and I was like, you know, when a kid comes to school having done some kind of independent learning project like that and wants to show it, like nurture that. And that maybe that right then wasn't the time, but say, you know what, let me put this on my desk, and when we get to whatever time,
right,
you'll have a chance. But to tell her to put it away and basically like, hey, put that away, hide it, don't be proud of that. When a young girl comes to school having done an engineering project on her own, you make an extra fucking big deal about that.
Yes, you do.
And it's like, she was told, shh, put that away, sweetheart. Put that away, sweetheart. And it just infuriated me and it ran all over me. And I think that there's, you know, not to blame culture, but I think culturally we're still very much evolving from, you know, you think about like, you know, right to vote. I mean, women working with not even just staying in the home. Like there's so much that we're still working on as women that culturally has to be overcome. But I also see then that those cultural standards were very much perpetuated in the home. And so I know like my mom, as much as she's always had her own business and she has fought against the ideas of the generation before her, and even me, like with my tattoos, and my parents, my grandparents are always like, you know, why do you have those dumb things? Like I just got hand tattoos a month ago, and they're like, it's exploding their brain, like, oh my God. And I'm like, if I have to change who I am to fit into someone else's world, then I don't want to be in that world. I'm going to make my own world. And I think that, you know, as much as people like to dog on millennials, I think there's some really great stuff happening in the future generation as well, where boys and girls, young teenage girls and teenage boys are working side by side in STEM programs, and they're programming and they're doing all kinds of stuff together. And I think that it's a slow generational shift that happens. But I think the first place where it has to happen is in your own mind. You have to realize, regardless of what culture and especially still in some very old school, male dominated corporate industries, which is where I came from, you have to change your own mindset about how you show up at the table.
Yeah.
Little things like this is an interesting one, and you may or may not know this, but, and anyone listening or watching, think about this and start paying attention to this, especially if you work in corporate America. When you go into a conference room or a boardroom for a meeting, observe when the men come in, what do they do? Do they spread their stuff out? Do they like lean back, kick their legs up? Like, what are they doing? And women come in and like put their piece of paper in front of them and their glass of water or whatever here, and we stay small in that room. And somebody pointed that out once, and I started laughing because the first time I heard that, I was sitting in a conference room for leadership development, and I had 3 binders spread out in front of me, a giant jug, and a cup of water, and I was taking up like 3 spaces. And I was like, no problem here. But I started noticing that, and I'm like, yeah, it's like even just women come in and they're like not intentionally doing it, but creating a sense of smallness. And men come in and don't feel like, they don't think about it either. They just come in and they're like present. And I think that that's where we as women have to be too, is to stop thinking about our own gender as our own weakness.
Absolutely.
We're not the same as men, and that's great. It's not a bad thing. So embrace your feminine, embrace your inner goddess, and show up as you are. Don't show up thinking like, oh, I'm a woman, I have to be small in the room, or oh, I'm a woman, I have to be extra big. Like, just show up the way you are, and your work will prove itself.
Yeah, and you've already, just the way that you close that off, I think that that's important, because what usually happens is that in order for us to stand up, show up, and show out, we're still trying, it's like a person who's naturally, introverted, acting extroverted to act bold, and we're not saying any of those things. We're just saying be who you are. But I wanted to give 2 analogies myself, because this is part of my thought process. Based on how I was raised from my vantage point, I remember being a little girl, and if I got dressed up and I was like really, really cute, and I went and I was like, look at me, I'm cute, I was taught, no, sweetie, you don't do that. You enter the room, you allow someone else to give you a compliment. You want to be humbled. You don't want to be vain. And so that is downplaying, right there. But we don't raise our sons to be like that. When they put on a suit, we want them to come in, they look at dapper, rather debonair. We put them in sports like football. They're always going for the goal, for the most points, for the score, for the win, to be the champion. And so we're not raised that way. And so from the beginning, just with the upbringing period, we're not put into a position to shine and to be ourselves. The other thing that I'll use the music industry, hip hop. Like, if you hear, Tupac, that's why I mean, F you, this Tupac and Biggie going back and forth as for a season, like hardcore trash rapping other MCs was, if you couldn't do it, then you weren't really an MC. And when you watch some of the shows they used to have on TV with the battle rapping and stuff like that, it's the person that could flip the best lyrics. And like, if they could prove that they were doing it off the cuff because they started joning on what you were wearing or something like that, you're like, yeah, they're the dopest. And so then you think about like Nicki Minaj. She was dominating the rap industry. Cardi B comes, they start throwing shade at each other, and now all of a sudden they're not being ladylike. Not to mention,
hold up.
Neither one of them came out ladylike in the first place. And cities everywhere, you know what I'm saying? But so with the women, battle rapping isn't okay. And so like one of the people on the Breakfast Club, Charlamagne the God, he totally pissed me off because, when the guys would start whining, he like, that's what MCing is all about. But when Nicki Minaj and Cardi B were going at it, he was like, Nicki Minaj, she really ought to stop putting Cardi B's name in her mouth. She's giving, and so the standard got flipped. They got flipped. So, when you look at somebody like you and I, because we've got that badassery in us that's like, look, I'm in the house. I'm the dopest, I'm the baddest, and I'm here. A lot of women, they can't take that. A lot of people, they can't take that. But the thing about it is, I'm coming up in here letting you know that I'm the #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs, but you coming up in here letting it be known that you are the mindset hacker.
Yes.
I'm not throwing any shade on you. You're not throwing any shade on me. We're both confident in what we do.
Yeah.
And we know that whoever comes to us that's in our tribe, we're going to transform their lives.
Yes.
And so bottom line is we're just not given permission to do that. We don't celebrate greatness within one another. And I'm on a hard ass mission, right? I'm on a hard mission to reverse that, because it irks me that that's not what we do. We look for, like, for instance, so I'll say this, I'm passing the mic back.
No, you're good.
When I look at a woman and I realize that she needs my coaching, I don't reach out to her and be like, oh yeah, by the way, lady, I just wanted to let you know that this, and this could be better in what you do in business.
Yeah.
I reach out to her and I'm like, you are a rock star. You do this, and this. And I want to do whatever I can to make sure that more of the world sees you, because I see you. And so everybody that's listening, especially if you scout for clients, and some of y'all spammy mofos were who I did my tribute to on Facebook the other day, you should ask yourself that. Especially if you're reaching out to work with a woman, I'm like giving you fucking juice right now. Are you reaching out to that woman to let her know that you can help her because she has flaws? Or are you reaching out to her to let her know that she is a total boss and you want to do whatever it is that you can to be a part of her growth and her development to get to the next level? Totally different level of energy when it comes to acquiring clientele.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And one of those comes from a place of your own insecurity of like, if I can assert my authority over this person, then I assert myself as an authority, rather than saying, and we've talked about this before, you and I, about the scarcity mindset and abundance mindset. And it's like, more for you doesn't mean less for me. More for you means more for us.
Yes.
It's great. Yeah. And so, there's so much in here and there's so many different paths we can go down with that, but just the way that women have fought for seats at the table for so long has then created a scarcity mindset where now women are branching out, and the women creating their own businesses is bigger now than ever, no matter what kind of business it is. But for so long, those weren't available to women, and it wasn't thought of as something that for women that we would do. And so we were trying to get the same spots as the men at the corporate table when we were being told that we were just a secretary. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm trying to get in leadership. Girl, so my first job in corporate America, this was many years ago. And I was the executive assistant to the CEO of a major global insurance company. And the IT, the CIO, and the legal general counsel, when I got there, had real problems with women. And this is a fun story. And I was 2 weeks into the job doing what I do. And I'm like, you may be a man, you may be the CIO, but I work for this guy. If anybody watches Suits, it's kind of like the Harvey and Mike thing. It's like, if you mess with me, you mess with Harvey. It's like, if I say it, it's the same as Harvey saying. Can you hear that?
Yeah, it's all good though.
That's destroying things now. So I have no idea.
He wants to be the star. You should have just let him stay on your lap, but okay.
I should have. He's mad at me now because he tried to get back up here and I wouldn't let him, and now he went out there and did that. I just got home.
He could be a YouTube star too.
He is. He has a huge Instagram following, actually. He has his own Instagram. So anyway, so I'm like 2 weeks into this job, and I don't look at it like, hey, you're the CIO and I need to like kowtow to you. I look at it like I represent him, and he's given me full reign to carry out what his vision is. Mm-hmm. And I had access to the CEO, who was my boss at the time, his email, and I would answer emails on his behalf, like as a ghostwriter, and I took care of his business for him. So I ran the company with him. And he hired me to do that because he didn't want a secretary. He wanted a right hand, like a second hand. And this CIO guy got really mad at me one day for, like, they had messed up something with my phone line. It was all it was. And my extension, my direct line wasn't working, something that little. And he got real pissed because I was like, this needs to be fixed today. It's been 2 weeks. You've had lots of chances. You keep saying it's getting done. It's not done. It needs to be fixed today, or there's going to be a problem. So he emailed the CEO, not realizing that I see all this, and says, and I won't have your little secretary, that little girl, telling me what to do. He got fired.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it became a running joke because there were a couple of guys after that were let go for disrespecting me in very, very awful ways. And so we kind of like started making a joke about like the notches in my belt. It's like, you want to clean house, just hire Kristen and people will start going. They either left or were fired. But it was just like, I was like, that was his view. It was like, oh, this little girl's not going to tell me what to do. And I was like, And then the other part of it too is I get really tired on social media of seeing women speaking out for women and the men being silent. And so my boss, who is still my mentor and still I have tremendous respect for him and is a dear friend of our families, you know, he stood up and said, you don't talk to her like that.
Yeah.
And if that's a problem for you, and if you're going to have issues taking direction from her, then you need to go. And I think that's the other part of it too. You know, it's like that Gillette commercial. Do you remember the one from like a couple months ago? And it was and I don't really watch the media and the news, but this one kept popping up in social. So I started looking at it, and Gillette put out this commercial about like, and it was kind of in response to sort of like to the Me Too movement and about, you know, not objectifying women and like being gentlemen and being respectful to women and not catcalling. And so this commercial shows these guys catcalling and really objectifying women. And then basically their call was like, guys, we can do better. But throughout the commercial, there are other men kind of like slapping the hands of these dudes and being like, hey, maybe no. And so it was men correcting men. And then like people got up in arms about it. Women were like, this is a great commercial. And men were like, this paints us as scumbags. And they're like, this is bullshit. We're boycotting Gillette. And I'm like, you're boycotting Gillette for saying like, hey, let's treat women better. And never mind the fact that, yeah, we know not all men are like that. And guess what? Gillette did a really good job of showing like the good guys addressing.
Right. You missed all of that. So all the people that identified with the bad guy were the ones that were watching the commercial.
That's it. Right. And it was like, there was this big hullabaloo about it. And I'm like, but it really does. Like, we can scream and cry out for our own purpose, but like the men in our lives have to be linking arms with us, because this isn't just a problem for women. It's a problem for society. When women don't have an equal seat at the table, everybody misses out. When men don't have an equal seat at the table, everybody misses out. We all contribute greatness.
See, now you're bringing up the division shit. In that conversation, that's a touchy one, right? Because then somebody listening to the podcast can get stimulated and be like, yeah, well, now we can just take this like 51 million different directions. And so it ends up being a conversation of men versus women. It ends up being a conversation of black versus white, young versus old, homosexual versus heterosexual. And so everybody's got this stripe. And I'm just wondering, when is the conversation going to change? Because there's this one little simple scripture that I still don't think that the masses get, whether you're Christian or not. And it's that a house divided against itself cannot stand. And everybody looks at that scripture from a literal standpoint, you know, Christianity, and you got to be on one accord. But look, the way that I perceive that is God is love. God loves all people. God created all people. And so what kind of conversations are we having? Are we having conversations that stimulate more division or community and unity? And how, you know, because usually what ends up happening, and I had to respond to somebody on one of my IG posts because they kept coming in and saying, hey, fellow feminists. And that's not something that I readily allow anybody to say to me, because some people, when they say that, they just mean empower women so we can be total badasses. Some people, when they say that, they mean we're for women and, you know, the hell with men. I don't know where you stand. So can you have to give me clarity. Don't come on my page and don't call me that. All I know is that I'm for the betterment and improvement of all people. I may have a niche where I work with more women than men, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't work with a man. And it doesn't mean that I'm anti-man. And so that's the other thing too, ladies, is just making sure that as you're evolving, you're moving and you're growing and you're going up. Are you also still looking at the good guys and not getting caught up into those conversations where it's quieting some men and making them be silent? Because our roles have reversed tremendously in my marriage by me building this empire. But if you see me and Mr. Crenshaw together, you don't doubt whether or not he is or isn't the king of this castle. Not at all. And then as he's awakening to some new things with him and establishing stuff himself, you know, if you look at it just from a practical perspective, it's like, well, she beasting this business and he left all of his business and stuff behind in St. Louis and, you know, quote unquote, trying to find himself or some shit like that for these last few years. So if you're doing all of that stuff, you know, who's bringing in the most money or who does this? Is he's helping with the, you know, and you look at the gender roles and the conversation just gets really convoluted, gets really crazy. And it's like, none of that shit matters. Because what we find ourselves doing is just looking at a bunch of societal rules. The point is we're in a bomb-ass relationship. We love each other and we will do whatever it takes, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman and society says you should or should not do, who is bringing more or less money or whatever. Just what do we do so that we fulfill this vision of what living our best life looks like?
Yeah.
And so all of that just to say, I'm just really curious for the people that have some of these really high-strung beliefs. When do you start engaging the other side of the other side of the conversation to bring unifying words, to bring people together instead of always, shitting on folks and separating us? And I truly believe that the way that things are changing in the world, we're being awakened to this on a whole nother other level.
Yeah, it's true. And I think when we start promoting our own cause at the expense of someone else's cause, you actually hurt your cause if you follow that. But,
yes.
Yeah, because nobody wants to be associated with someone that's tearing others down, no matter the reason, whatever it is. But I totally hear you on that feminist thing, because I don't consider myself a feminist. Am I a powerful advocate of women and women being successful and women living their fullest life? Absolutely. But I get really sideways. I'm not about feminism for the sake of feminism. I actually wrote a paper about this my sophomore year of college, and look who came back.
I did. I just didn't want to say anything during flow.
We cried, and then I was like, okay, she said you can come up. So, but I wrote a paper about this my sophomore year of college, and it was about gender roles and gender identity. And really the thing is, there are some things that men are naturally better suited at, and I'm totally okay with that. And there are something that women are naturally better suited at, and I'm great with that too. But don't try and insert yourself in something simply because there aren't a lot of women there.
Yeah.
Like, don't make that your reason. If you really want to do it, do it. I will be behind you 100%. But if you're like, I'm going there because there's no women there, then like, why? Why are there no women there? Like, physically our bodies are different. Like, there's so many things about us that are different. And it's for a reason, because we complement one another.
Absolutely.
It's like, if you want to play football because you love football, then go fucking play football. But if you want to play football to prove a point that women can play football, then I'm not sure I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm in the same place with you. And it's one of those things. I was watching a IG video, and the guy was like, it was basically, you remember free Meek Mill, and Jay-Z, all of them were like, get him out because he didn't deserve to be there. And so somebody did this commercial thing, and they were like, yeah, I don't remember his name, but free Tyrone. They're like, Tyrone got locked up. Yeah, you need to free Tyrone because him and his girlfriend got into it. What? So they locked him up there. Yeah, and then he ran out and he cussed out the people, and he got a gun and he just shot up the park. Yeah, and then his chick called the FBI and told on him, so he kidnapped the baby. Like, he kidnapped the baby, and they're just doing all of this elaborate stuff. And then, once the thing is over with, he like, nah, dude, we're not freeing Tyrone. Tyrone needs to stay locked the fuck up, because look at what Tyrone did. Everybody doesn't need to get that rally cry, that rally cry, and that call. And so, yeah, you have to really watch yourself, because you can get caught up in these quote unquote movements. And while you're caught up in the movement, you actually lose the purpose. Okay, so what I'm not going to do is make editing hard on me, you guys. For those of you that are watching, you'll see that when I do some edits, Kristen just totally froze on me. So did you hear me talk about like the kidnap the baby part and all of that stuff?
Yeah, that's what I heard, and then it was like.
So the bottom line is this story just got more and more elaborate as they were going. And the guy that was listening, he was like, no, dude, we're not talking about free Tyrone. Everybody doesn't get to get that rally cry. So, you start some of these movements. And if you just attach everything that looks like it could be assigned to that, then you truly lose the fire. You lose the purpose behind what it is that you're actually doing. And knowing how to be about you and letting people still be about them, to me, is one of the most precious gifts that you can actually give. Saying that this is the way it's got to be done and it's my way or the highway, it's not cool. All I'm saying is for the people that come to me God has brought them to me to utilize my way. And I still can't be attached to my way, because then he may be wanting to make me a better person, and I may have to evolve my processes and procedures to grow myself to help somebody that's a little bit different. You know, you do the whole change management thing. And so sometimes we're changing people. Sometimes we're having to change things in ourselves to be able to change people. But we got to be careful, you know, about these attachments. And so this is one of those conversations where we would need to like say, we're going to just stick to one facet of this and like do a couple of segments and like really call people out on their shit. But I want to kind of, you know, switch gears unless there was something else you wanted to like really add to that, because
I'm good.
You good. I wanted to here you are adamant about the success of other people. One of the things I love, because this is real women don't bitch. We don't whine, we don't bitch, we don't complain, we push no matter what, because my philosophy is everybody's got a story to tell. Yours is either going to empower or devour you. I hope you choose correctly. So when you look at your life, what you do, why you do, what's the thing for you that puts you in a position to feel like this is what you need to do? Something happened in your life to make this be a great source of joy. Typically, our greatest joy was also our source of pain, if that's not exactly what it is for you. But I just need to know, how did you get to this point where moving so hardcore for women? Because it looks like this is just a natural gift that you always had. Have you always been like that? I mean, what put this in you to be the way that you are?
Yeah, so I think there is something to be said for it being naturally part of my fabric, but there's certainly, my life story is certainly why I care so deeply. So I was sexually abused as a child by my brother, and I was physically abused by him. It was not a fun growing up. And I would ask my parents for help in ways like I would leave notes under my mom's pillow telling her I was afraid. And it wasn't until I was like 20 that my mom acknowledged having gotten those notes. So it was always ignored, and I was left to fend for myself. And then into high school and college, when I was cutting myself and in and out of the hospital, and especially in the psychiatric hospital, and my parents were not there for me. And not only were they not there for me, the involvement I got from my mom was she sent me a package when I got out of the hospital, out of the psychiatric hospital, from trying to kill myself. And my mom had sent me this package, and it was like a stack of papers, and it was EOBs from the insurance company and medical bills. And she said, you need to get yourself together now, because it's taking me a lot of time to go through all this and costing us a lot of money. And they never once came to visit me in the hospital. They never, it was just I've done a lot of work on them, but they still crop up, abandonment issues from, my parents not ever really being emotionally a part of me or vested in my success. And, and I think every coach I've ever talked to has said they're in it because they want to be for someone else what they needed.
Yeah.
And for me, I was always really I was the friend that was like helping my friends through their stuff in high school and helping my friends through their stuff in college, even while I was going through my own stuff.
Yeah. I totally identify this, and you know it.
Yeah. So I was always that person. And then, I wandered after college from starting my own business into other jobs, and then into corporate America, and then into startups. And, I kind of like meandered, but like I said, when I look back at it, I was always really championing the women who were hurting and didn't know what to do and couldn't find their way, which was very much the way I was. And I had to find my way on my own, and I found it.
And I wanted to ask, what was that? What was that breaking point, or what was that moment, that epiphany that hit you that said, wait a minute, not only can I will come out of this, and then that second phase of, and I will be this thing for other women?
Oh yeah, it was a very clear defining moment. It was when I was in the hospital, and I was 19 at the time, or 19 or about 20. It was like it was late 19 years old, early 20, somewhere right in there. I think it was right before I turned 20, actually. It was January. Yeah. And I was in the hospital and I'm surrounded by these women. I know.
Let him be the star that he wants to be. We good.
I love you and I missed you too.
But you said that he comes around at certain times, so leave my boy be.
He does. He knows when he travels with me actually a lot, but anytime, like if I'm like really sad or something, he'll come and sit with me, or like when I'm having hard conversations with clients, he comes around too. Like he knows. So
this is just an intense moment, so he's support.
He's like, I'm gonna check on mom, but also I'm kind of an asshole. That's fine. So I'm in this hospital and I'm surrounded by these women who are, most of them, there was one that was younger than me. Most of them were in their probably, a few of them in their late 20s and then a lot in their early, mid, late 30s. And we would sit around and like, an inpatient psychiatric hospital is an interesting place to be. It's not therapy all day. It's a lot of just like doing nothing time, which is really weird. It's mostly like keeping you kind of like safe from yourself and like that. There's a lot of that. So a lot of downtime talking with these other women. And they were all talking about, well, last time I was at this hospital and here's what the nurses are like over there. Well, next time I want to go back to this place, or next time I want to be at this other place. And I'm sitting there my first time in this hospital wanting so badly to be out. I'm thinking, what are they talking about next time? I don't want there to ever be next. I didn't want there to be a this time.
Yeah.
And they've been doing this for decades. I'm like, I'm not going to be that. I was made, and it wasn't a conscious thing in my head, but sort of looking back now, the voice that was playing and driving this in my mind was one of like, you are meant to do more than be locked up in a hospital like this all the time.
Wow.
And so I got out and actually even while I was in there, I was helping the other girls. Like nobody was, I understand the value of psychiatric hospitals and there are good things and there are not great things. One of the things was no one was educating these girls and women about their illnesses. And I was at the time enrolled in an abnormal psych class in college. And so like I think it was my roommate had come and dropped off some books for me. And one of them was my abnormal psych book. So I opened it up and like everybody knew what their diagnosis was, but didn't know anything about it. Of course, back then, like the internet wasn't really a thing yet. Like it was, but not really. So you couldn't just go on like Google or WebMD or whatever. And so she brought me my abnormal psych book and I started reading like about bipolar and borderline and schizophrenia. And all these women are having these epiphany moments of like, kind of like, I'm not alone. Like, oh, this isn't like, I'm not just a freak. Like, this is a real thing. And so even there, I was helping these women while I was in the midst of like my own crisis.
Yeah. That's usually how we come out the best.
Yeah. And that was the turning point for me when I was like, this isn't who I'm going to be. There's something more for me and I got to get my shit together and it's up to me to do it. Because my parents aren't here. My friends, like they're college kids and they're cool now, but like, my friends really didn't come help me because that's a scary thing, like have a classmate or a roommate, cutting herself or ODing on pills to like try and kill herself. And like, when you're a teenager in college, like you're not equipped to handle that for somebody else. And I don't hold that against them at all. It's just like, that's a lot. And so, nobody was there for me. And that was a really clear moment to me of like, I'm going to beat this, whatever that looks like. And I had no idea at the time what it looked like.
Yeah, one of the reasons why I always love to ask questions, and I love it when I have guests that will truly surrender to the ideal of vulnerability, is because a weak point for people, period, but for a lot of women is anytime you isolate yourself and you say, this is me. This is my problem. Nobody else understands. Nobody else has been through this. When we think like that, it magnifies the situation. But when I say I've been through this and you say you too, then all of a sudden the conversation is no longer about me. I'm like, wait a minute, really? What happened with you? And the same thing with you. You're like, well, what happened with you? And so now it's no longer about the focus being on look at what's happening to me. It's about look at this thing that's happening. And the more people that start opening up and talking, then it actually gives less power to the situation. Yes. But if you can say that it was just you, that truly magnifies it. And so there still has yet to be a single guest on this podcast who has said anything that I can't identify with at all. Very rare to say that you were born with the confidence or the boldness, but I tell people all the time, I literally was born this way, but life did have a moment and it did kick my ass. But here's another thing that you and I have in common. I was in a psych ward when I was pregnant with my third daughter. I was in an abusive relationship. And for people that know me, they'd be like, how did that ever happen to August? Not the woman who was never in any type of violent relationships at all. Men groveled at my feet. They were good to me. And plus, I just didn't play games. I've always been known as a person that doesn't take any shit. But I found myself married to a man that thought that, cheating, gambling, doing whatever he was going to do was the way it was supposed to be. Some of you guys know about the story of me saying how he bit a hole, like literally his tooth pierced my chin, just like really crazy. And I remember how I was at that point where it's really crazy, right? Because we look at people, it's like, what the hell were they thinking? Like we think of these celebrities and they do crazy stuff and they were cracked out and they're, hanging off of something and you're in TMZ. But being very ultra transparent, I remember I'm sitting here and I'm pregnant with this man's child. I don't want to be pregnant by him. I don't want to be married to him. I don't even like my existence anymore. And I remember him pushing the hell out of me. I fell back on the bed. Here it is. I'm in my 9th month of pregnancy and I pulled out a knife. It was the second time I pulled out a knife, but I did not put it out on him. I was like, just get away from me. And I put the knife to my wrist. I was like, I would rather be dead than to be with you anymore. And we had this big pantry in our kitchen. It happened to have a lock on the inside. Only God knows why they designed it that way. But I went in there and, he was pounding on the door. And then the only thing that like literally kept me from taking that next plunge was the fact that my daughter at that time, who was about to turn 10, was in the other room. And so I'm sitting there literally frantic and my mind is, I can't go because if I go and we're married, then Kamaria gets left with him. But I can't stay because if I stay in the situation for a second, I had lost all power. I didn't believe that I could get out. So the police were called because of all of the commotion. The ambulance came and they did we need to check on you because, you're pregnant. I'm like, I'm fine. Just get rid of him. The cops were like, I thought you were leaving him because they came more than once, mocking the shit out of me. Long story short, got into that ambulance. They checked my vitals. And then when I think that they tell me that my vitals are looking good and I think I'm going to leave out, I end up in a psych ward at St. Mary's Hospital. And it was a whole lot of nothing. I did have one friend, but of course she wasn't authorized to come and get me. And she was like, she's not the crazy one. You got the wrong one. You need to have his ass in there. That didn't make it any better. And she's a upstanding Christian woman, like quote unquote, don't cuss. She was like cussing, like let August out. And I was in there for 72 hours and it was the most awakening 72 hours of my life. And I remember when I got out, that was a breaking point. That was an epiphanal moment for me. And I was like, you know what? If you even make me think you'll ever put your hands on me again, the marriage is over. And it's literally that simple, nothing more, nothing less. And so that was a wake up call for me. And it was a whole bunch of days of nothing. Just a whole bunch of days of nothing. And when my doctor finally came to see me, luckily I knew him very well. And, Dr. Kyle was like, you know what, August, these are superficial marks on your arm. Of course, we had to protect you and protect the baby to make sure that you weren't going to be harmed to yourself or anyone else. But then he released me and induced my labor and I had her. And 6 weeks later, I ended up leaving, my ex-husband. But still just all of that, there's somebody like listening right now that you are saying what you can't do because you have memories like this. Women will not show up in their power because they'll remember that one time they made that bad decision. They'll be haunted by their choices. And what if it ever comes out that if I was in a psychiatric center, what if this person what if this person does that? Listen, you're listening to two profound women. Part of the reason why we're so bold is because if we were naturally born confident and bold and strong and we could get shitted on and duped by life, then a person that may not have been birthed with the same level, with the same skill set, it can happen to you. So I'm a firm believer of individuals who have the ability to overcome more expediently. That doesn't mean you're better than anybody. It means you're called. It means you're chosen to serve and to be there and to help somebody else. And so us both being transparent and saying, hey, here's a not as pretty side of my past. We're putting that out there so that whatever that ugly thing it is that you're dealing with, that you don't let it hang over your head anymore. You don't let it hold you down. And I was grown. You guys hear me? I was 30 years old when this happened. So yours happened when you were younger. Mine happened when I was older. But we can't let it hold us. We can't let that be what keeps us from showing up in our greatness. So thank you for sharing that. And so I know if me and you share that commonality, that there's another woman out there that shares it too. Or maybe she was just lucky that somebody else came so she didn't end up in a psych ward. But you know that you quote unquote did that crazy thing too. Yeah. And it could have been you.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have. And the voice that tells us to be quiet is the voice of shame. And shame is such a liar. And once you tell your story, and it's so scary to tell your story the first time, but once you tell it, it's so freeing. And you realize like, this wasn't scary at all. Like, what was I afraid of? And shame is silenced. And shame wants you to think you're the only one, because when you're the only one, it's your fault. And when it's your fault, you can make up for it or you can punish yourself for it. But that's, like the Me Too movement gets, a lot of press on both sides. Like it gets a hard rap and it gets a lot of support. But what it really did is it showed like there are more people out there who share similar stories than you could imagine. And whether that be sexual assault or abuse or, God, we can talk about so many things like drug abuse, STDs. There's so many things that people don't talk about because of shame, when it's really like, we're all just in this life together.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You're never the only one, ever.
Never. So look, ladies, we're just gonna you have to come back. We're just gonna have to continue some girlfriend chatter. The clock is kind of winding up on us. But for those of you that are listening, one of the things that I've been doing for the past month is a lot of the people that are speakers in the summit, they've been coming on the podcast just to have girlfriend talking. Like, we're just letting this conversation be whatever it is it's going to be. If something that Kristen and I said, pierced your heart, and here it is, you have an entrepreneurial idea, or that you're not showing up in your total greatness, then this is an example. Maybe now you understand why what I said, it was not no fluff. At the beginning of this podcast episode, this is why she's one of the speakers in the summit, because of the passion. What is willing her to move forward is the passion to make sure that we are both on a united front to minimize the damage, with other women. So she's going in really, really hard, talking about change management, allowing you to see what all of these emotions are you're going through and what the roller coaster looks like and how you can kind of dip forward and dip back so that you're more consciously aware. Like you were saying, that people were more consciously aware when they were in the psych ward. If you haven't registered for the summit, you guys need to register, because this is just imagine us doing what we did right now, but on a more focused level, saying we're specifically going to talk about this issue that you're dealing with. So I really want to put that out there, that I want you all to register. But I would like to, if there's anything, I would like to ask you one more final question, because I know what I'm saying about the summit. What triggered you not to be a part of the summit? We know that because you grilled the hell out of me at the beginning. You're one of the, there are a lot of you, you're just like key supporters. You're one of the key supporters. The way you're promoting this summit, it might as well be your event. There are a lot of you ladies that are like, this is so important. What would your final words be to the ladies as to why you're doing this and why you perceive it so important that they should be there?
Yeah, so I have a slightly different tack on that than probably maybe anyone else. But, there's, in the language that's being used around the summit, it's around, women have all this expertise and the experience, and it's coming at it from all these different angles, and all of that is true. But I go even more bare bones on it, and I say the best way to find success in life and be where you want to be is to surround yourself with people who have the energy that you need to reach the level you want to be at. Mm-hmm. And if for no other reason you sign up for the summit, to surround yourself with women who are like August and like me and like the many other women that you've already had on the podcast, if for no other reason than to surround yourself with high vibe, highly elevated, intellectually aware, truly genuinely supportive and uplifting women, if for no other reason, sign up for that.
Yeah.
Sign up for the friends.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it, is I'm like, I had this conversation with a woman yesterday who signed up actually. And she's like, I love following your feed. It's always so uplifting. And it's made me realize that I really need to surround myself with women of a different caliber. And like, that's what I've been saying to all of my people all along anyways. It's like, if you just need to press reset on the kind of people that you're surrounded with, then you need to sign up for the summit.
Bam. That's deep. That's real. I co-sign it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that that's the conclusion that you've drawn for, because a lot of energy and effort in the way that the summit was designed was to give that sense of community. And it was to do it first with the speakers, instead of it just being another event where it's like, oh, like you said, I'm an expert, and I'm involved with this, but we're always talking this shit about sisterhood. About how do we really show it? How do we model it? And how do we make sure that we're doing everything that we can to put the spotlight on someone else? And that's what I love about what's organically happening, with the ladies that are participating. So yeah, if you need a reset, sometimes it's hard to leave behind the friends you shouldn't be connected with because you're afraid to be alone. Well, you come around us, you're going to have so much awesomeness around you. It's going to be contagious, and you're going to agitate the hell out of the other people. They're not going to want to be around you anyway. I mean, it's not because even there's anything negative. It's just that you're going to realize that you're just a different, you're not a vibrational match anymore.
Yeah,
and that's
here. None.
Yeah. And that's what it all boils down to. But there was so much wrapped up in this conversation, ladies. This is definitely, let me rewind, go back, listen to it again, because I need to digest what they were saying in this part, and then in this part, and that part. So you want to see what girlfriend chatter looks like? This is what girlfriend chatter should look like. Because I don't know about you, Kristen, but I need to hurry up and skedaddle off of here because I got a quick 30-minute appointment. I'm going to do that. And then I think I'm just going to tear every platform up and go live, because I need to do something with all the damn motivation.
Yeah.
Make a post, do something.
Do it.
Yes. Be around people who set you on fire. Damn. Thank you so much. Always. Thank you. You're worth gold.
My sister from another mister.
Girl, look. We was born in heaven and just dropped on earth, and we was like accidentally dropped in two different spots. Yeah. we were birthed. We're twins, you guys. We're fucking twins. Yeah. I just got to catch up with her on the tattoos. I got some here. I got to get more tattoos. She's got me beat, y'all. So
in Iceland, I got a big one coming. I'm getting a big chest piece done next month. Girl, come on, bring it.
Okay. I got to pick what my next one will be, but yeah, it's about, you inspired me. Now I got to go get tatted up. So ladies, we love you. We got to get out of here. Until the next time. Hey, no whining, no bitching, no complaining. Real women don't bitch. They get shit done. Yes. Thank you for joining me today. Remember to cultivate a mindset that is biased towards taking action. No bitching, whining, or complaining. Here, our mantra is, real women don't bitch, we get shit done. See you next week as I continue to bring you what you need to keep your head in the game and beast your business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Would you like a specific topic covered? Have a question you would like answered live? Then head on over to realwomendon'tbitchpodcast.com. Subscribe to my email list, hit me up, and I got you. Interested in being a guest speaker? You walk the walk? Then you can sign up on the website too. This is your #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs, Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless. Signing out. Deuces.
Inspire, empower, grab your girls and soar a little higher. Unlock the fire in you.